Many children with autism are getting diagnosed late. The optimal age for diagnosis is actually around 24 months old, and kids are getting diagnosed between the ages of 4 and 10.
So kids are getting exposed to multiple providers, such as a doctor or a school, and they come across these professionals, but these guys are not talking to each other. The increased wait time then leads to later diagnosis and later opportunity for intervention, which down the road leads to poorer outcomes.
And while a comprehensive assessment might be ideal, that current process takes a long time and it's not accessible to everyone because of the wait times, the cost, and the accessibility.
So our solution incorporates the fact that not every child is going to need this long, comprehensive, thorough evaluation. Our process is streamlined and leads to either a quicker diagnosis or a provisional diagnosis that could be used to make a referral for the right kinds of treatment.
Yeah, our solution is a summary autism evaluation, and it's via online software product. So many disciplines can collect data from various sources, and it's a sufficient method for diagnosis in a high percentage of cases, and that can lead to more effective and quick service delivery and avoid that process of a lengthy evaluation. Some kids might still need a traditional comprehensive evaluation from a psychologist or developmental pediatrician, but other kids might not need that. And so we can streamline this process and shorten wait lists and still serve children.
The assessment includes a severity score, which looks at autism level, kind of the level of symptomology, and helps to determine the dosage for treatment, which is something right now that doesn't exist out there, and it's causing a lot of problems in terms of what kind of intervention is needed for each particular child.
Yeah, and using 11 domains is supported by new research that looks at symptom clusters and autism gene profiles. We really just want to get kids off the wait list and into treatment.
Unlike this wait and see method, which has been in place for a long, long time, our method looks at a clear diagnosis and provides instant referrals for treatment.
Right, so current screeners are all focused on babies and toddlers, and they're not diagnostic. But our summary measure does allow for diagnosis, and it allows for a group of clinicians to decide much more quickly in the obvious cases of autism, or to rule out autism when that's obvious. Our measure is appropriate for toddlers, children, teenagers, and even adults, because in clinical settings, we're going to see clients well into adulthood who really need this diagnosis to be ruled in or out.
So our solution is a comprehensive and shortened approach to getting a clear diagnosis.
This is Cade AI. It's a tool for various disciplines, including school psychologists, speech therapists, nurses, physicians, physician assistants, and doctors, and certainly psychologists. Let's get started and log in. Portal for getting into the system, as well as just doing administrative tasks. Certainly you can access your profile information, including a variety of fields: name, address, phone numbers, your organization, passwords, and ways to manage the assessment and various defaults for the system. But what we want to show today is the input part of Cade AI, where you actually provide assessment input. Let's go back to the home screen. I'm going to type in a patient's information. So I've already got a demo set up and the birth date. Let's see if there's any existing assessments. There are. There's only one assessment. There could be many. You can have multiple assessments per patient through time, so that you can actually see if that patient is making progress over time. Let's pick the assessment and get started. So here we are. This is the main body of Cade AI. Cade AI is made up of 11 domains, starting with understanding, which is highlighted here at the top left, learning, communicating, all the way down through behaving. So there's 11 domains that we try to assess. And from those 11 domains, given your input, we can make pretty accurate analysis of what you tell us, including analysis and recommendations. So let's see how this works. So let's look at the communicating domain, for instance. Every domain has a very similar structure. It has a description that tells you what the domain is generally about up here in the right-hand corner. It has a cute doodle. The doodles are descriptive. They do makes sense for the domain. It has a number of items for the domain. In this case, it's a fairly large domain. The items, some of the items are bolded. Bold items have to be, they're required items. If you want the assessment to score, you need to provide a response for those required items. Let's make this a little bit bigger. And let's pick one. We'll pick eye contact, for instance. So struggles to use eye contact to communicate, too intense or avoiding. So as I look at that, I may or may not understand what that means and how to accurately provide information. So every one of these items has a question mark. And if you click on that question mark, it will provide information about how to score this. So this tells me you should be mildly concerned, for instance, if the child only occasionally glances at you or tries to communicate, and so forth, all the way down to very concerned child almost never looks at you. So during that part of your contact with the child, this will help you understand how to accurately respond. Once you understand what your response should be, it's pretty easy to enter it. Let's say we want to say moderately concerned for that particular response. What's also nice is that if the child's parent has also worked with the program, they could have actually provided their response. The caregiver response lives right next door to yours. And so you can actually see the caregiver responses as the clinician. And as the clinician, you may choose to use that. It may be valuable information to you. It may be invaluable or not valuable at all. But in any case, it's there to help you make the most accurate response that you can make. In addition to just the how do I score this item here, each of these items has more information. There's a tremendous amount of information in the tool. So if we look at, say, receptive language down below, again, it tells you how to score it, but it also gives you a little bit more information in the resources available. So in this case, it'll show you a picture, and it will give you a fairly brief description about what this means and why it's important and what it's all about. And I think that's very helpful, especially for folks that aren't highly steeped in the autism discipline. So if we click out of there, that's pretty neat. Every one of these items has such a description. If we go down to narrative coherence, that's a non-required item. That means you don't have to fill it out. It's better if you do. We can give you a lot more information if you fill everything out than if you don't. But you don't have to. But in addition, this item has both the picture that we just saw, certainly a different picture and a different brief description, but it also has a video. So in this case, narrative coherence, we can more clearly describe this by using a video. So if I click on that, you'll get a sense of how that might work. You'll actually see the video. You can hear Marcy talking, and
I wanted to tell you a story out of a storybook. I might start with telling you about some of the characters. For example, if I was showing you this page, I might describe that there's a badger in the picture, and a raven here, and a bunny.
So as you can see, that's a very amazingly helpful resource to help you better understand narrative coherence and what that means, how it's important, how to assess it. Finally, every item in every assessment area, every item in all 11 domains have a variety of these resources. They can have pictures, they can have video, they can have audio files, they can have links to other websites, they can even have documents. So if we look at a document, for instance, and we can look at, probably doesn't matter, we can look at the narrative coherence document, for instance. Let's pick that. Now, if you want to go even deeper into a single area, there's documents for the majority of items, and they go in depth about what we're trying to assess, why it's important, in a very easy way for parents and non-psychologists to understand. So again, exceedingly helpful to make an accurate assessment. Documents stay open, so you can go back to and refer to it at any point in time. And then let's just look at a different domain. We'll choose daily living, for instance. You can see this domain has fewer questions, and in fact, it has fewer required items. There's only 3 here. But they all the domains look and feel similarly. So once you're used to filling out one domain, you'll know how to fill them all out, and you'll know how to use the system. You know where to get the help for your questions. You know where to click for additional help on in-depth resources, and you certainly know how to input your questions. So that's the input side of Cade AI. As you can see, there's also an analysis and reporting sections. We can cover that in a later video.